right, there we go.
Love that accent. It's worse than Siri. Recording in progress.
All right. Hey, Sam, do you want to introduce yourself?
No, you should go first.
Okay,
Okay, okay.
I'll go first.
Hi, I'm Samantha Leith, and I am a speaker, coach, and I have a range of skincare for menopausal women. So I like to talk all things confidence, feeling good about yourselves, giving less whoosy what's to the rest of the world, owning who you are, and taking care of yourself inside and out. It's my jam. Whatever that means to you. We don't all have to do the same thing.
We feel like we have to sort of subtext everything, don't we? All right, that's
We
great.
do, yeah. It's like a caveat to, yeah.
Yeah, I know. All good. All right. Hey, everyone. My name is Anja Lineen. I am a health and menopause coach and personal trainer. I know some of the people on this call. So, yeah, I'm all about educating and empowering women with that education so that they can make the right decisions for themselves and their future health. And there's still so much misunderstanding around menopause. So I love talking anything menopause and exercise and, getting ready for that next chapter in life, because there's a whole lot of living left to do post-menopause.
A heap of living to do.
Yes.
And our understanding of it was so different. Like, I don't know about you, but I just thought my mother was in a bad mood for 10 years. I had no idea what was going on.
Yeah, no, it just wasn't talked about.
Mm.
Just wasn't talked about. So, all right, ladies, we're going to keep this a fairly casual chat tonight. So please use the chat function. We are going to be talking mind, body, and skin. So trying to sort of keep to those topics, and feel free to rein me in because I tend to go off on tangents. But maybe have a think about if there's anything in those areas that you particularly would like addressed that you want to sort of change for yourself. And then if you can walk away from this evening with one, maybe two ideas of something that you can implement for yourself, then that's a win. So, yeah. I will try and keep an eye on the chat as well.
Yep, I've got that up as well.
Yeah, perfect. All right, so to kick things off, I wanted to get you guys to think about, you don't have to tell us, feel free to pop it in the chat, but I want you to suspend any thought of political correctness. And just the first word that comes to mind when I say, finish the sentence, menopausal women are. So what's the first word that pops into your mind? And then tired, yeah. And then finish this one, menopausal women should.
Ooh.
So just that first word that comes in. Take action to feel better. Yeah, I like that. So quite often when we suspend any kind of thoughts of, what should I say? And is this going to land properly? When we just have that honest response, it tends to be a little bit negative. So like we've seen, they're tired, grumpy, old. And that might not necessarily, if we stop and think about it, that might not be what we really think about menopause, particularly when we're getting to that stage. But it's what society is quite often ingrained in us.
Because 100% my feeling is not that menopause is old now as I sit here thinking about it. But when you ask me that question, it is literally because of 50 years of training about what menopause is. Old is the first word that comes to my mind. I don't feel old at all.
Yeah. I know that when I turned 50, my whole thing was, I don't feel the way 50 looks in my head.
Exactly.
50 in my head is,
We're older than the Golden Girls.
I know, I heard that on the radio again today. They were supposed to be sort of in their 40s. And it was just, yeah. So I think, when we think about it properly, our perceptions are changing, but that deep-seated messaging is still there, and it does influence the way we experience things. I often say to people, if we go into something expecting it to be awful, the minute you get that hot flush or you have a sleepless night or you have that irrational rage, you go, oh, well, there you go. I knew it was going to be dreadful, and that proves it. Whereas if we can start to shift our thinking, then when those hot flushes or rages, whatever, hit, we can kind of recognize them and go, oh, yeah, here we go. And it kind of eases it a little bit quite often. It might not make it go away completely, but I think it does make life a little easier, a little more manageable.
Because one of the funny things is with those, especially when you touch on those mood swing things that happen, is for any of us that have daughters that are going through a whole lot of hormonal stuff at the other end of the world with their periods and the cycle that goes around and around and around that, they don't think they're nutbags when they have those hormonal moments, which are teary, aggro, brain fog, like all of those things happen exactly the same, but they don't think they're less than because it's happening. But we get to this point and we've been trained to think it's bad.
Yeah. Yeah, and exactly. We have, there are cultures and religions that celebrate that coming of age. For the boys and the girls, it's really celebrated, and we just don't do the same at the other end. Whereas at this end of life, we've got all this knowledge and experience, and we can quite often we're starting to have a bit more time as well to give back to society. And yeah, the attitude, I think it's changing, but it's still quite dismissive of women at this age. So I'm sure you've probably seen that Seven Dwarfs cartoon, the Seven Dwarfs of Menopause, the grumpy itchy, and yeah, it's okay to laugh about these things, but also, like, why are we laughing about it? Why are we the butt of jokes rather than, sort of informed conversation, I guess?
Unfortunately, I think humanity is that humor, when something's uncomfortable,
Yeah.
default
Yeah,
to
yeah.
humor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But just, I think, trying not to absorb that messaging too much, it does make quite a difference. So yeah, any of you ladies, any thoughts on that? Any experiences of negativity around menopause? No, we'll leave that. We'll keep checking on the chat. I thought it would be helpful to do a bit of a one-on-one, 101, I should say, about menopause. And because I had a conversation again with a friend the other day, and she was having a lot of foot pain, sort of that plantar fasciitis. And I sort of said to her that, that could be menopause. And she was like, really? So just clarifying a little bit. So clinically, menopause is considered to be a one-day event. It's 12 consecutive months of no menstrual cycle. So it's the only thing that's diagnosed retrospectively. But it's the lead up to that one-day event when our hormones are doing this roller coaster and we're going, up and down with all of that. That perimenopause, that can start, from your early 40s typically, and can last 2, 5, 7, 10 years, depending on the individual. So that perimenopause, when, as I said, our cycles are starting to change, we might be feeling anxiety. Itchy skin is a great one. I'm sure you can go in. Yeah. As our estrogen levels drop, estrogen is the most amazing hormone, and it as that drops, we lose a lot of the moisture in our skin and our eyes and our joints. So that's often why we're experiencing things like that. And we don't necessarily relate these symptoms to menopause because there's so much going on in life. So just being aware that, sort of, if you're starting to notice changes and you're in your 40s, it's likely to be perimenopause.
And I think a lot of us mask a lot of those symptoms. I know for myself, I was I had pretty crappy periods. So I was on the pill for a long period of that time. So although I was experiencing some of it, I wasn't experiencing all of it. And then the second I went off it, because I was like, oh, hang on, I think this is perimenopause coming up to bite me in the bottom. As soon as I went off the pill, hit me like a ton of bricks.
Yeah.
And in different ways to what I'd heard about perimenopause and what, I think I've had one hot flush.
Yeah.
but yeah, for me, itchy skin, brain fog, like I have ADHD that was late diagnosed, and my medication just totally stopped working, like didn't touch the sides. It was like my brain just stopped working again. It's
Oh,
just,
yeah.
yeah, it's bizarre. And yeah, that thermometer leg that we all need hanging out the bed at night. I kind of started to
Yeah.
need two thermometer legs, even in the middle of winter. So those legs will cool me down. Yeah, skin. I like makeup, and for me, putting on my makeup and going, oh, that skin just above my eyes, it's just not bouncing back quite as quickly as it used to.
No, no, it doesn't, does it? Yeah. Yeah,
What
but
was your biggest symptom?
oh look, the first one I really noticed was the hot flush because I was at an exercise class. So I'm used to getting hot and sweaty. And I got this intense heat in my back. And it was just
Oh,
really weird. And I went, what's that? And then this little light bulb quite literally went off, and I went, oh. And I actually started laughing. I was like, oh, okay, here we go. Because I just hadn't expected it. Just was not on my radar whatsoever. My periods had actually regulated after my last child. I'd become a lot more regular and routine. So yeah, just, and now in retrospect, I look back and those really grumpy, awful days when I remember saying to my family, I am irrationally angry today. I suggest you just leave me alone. So at least I feel
you
like
knew to do that.
I gave them the warning if they came near me. I got this great little thing at a wedding I went to last week. I wish I'd had this at the time. Oh, it's blurring in and out. This little, go away, leave me alone. Oh, I just remember being so angry. And now in retrospect, I kind of go, okay. But yeah, I was getting the hot flushes and the waking at night. And I can't drink wine anymore. Not that I was ever a big drinker, but red wine's totally gone. I can have, just having the smallest amount. I wake up with this racing heart, and it's just not worth it.
No.
So, you know.
Thankfully, that one hasn't hit me yet.
I keep
Just
trying.
don't tell me I'm going to stop liking chocolate.
Oh yeah, no, I'm still on that one. But yeah, I've heard of so many random symptoms. So like anyone who's listening in, feel free to pop into the chat if you've had any sort of unusual symptoms, shall we say, because I think a lot of people talk about hot flashes and rages and weight gain. A lot of people, sort of say that they're finding that weight sits around their belly, and that again is estrogen, because estrogen determines where the fat sits on the body. So as that drops down, it starts to sit around our belly.
I think when we do the listing of all the symptoms, for everything from tinnitus or tinnitus, however you say it, to frozen shoulder, to like trigger finger, to the itchy skin, like there's so many different symptoms. But I remember hearing, it's like a while when we understood all this beforehand. And in hindsight, I know the medical world has said the only symptom that they could specifically say was 100% menopausal, unless you had tuberculosis or a really, really bad illness, was the hot flush. Because your heart racing, the frozen shoulder, the sore joints, everything else could be attributed to maybe being something else. So they'd go down these rabbit warrens, whereas if you had a hot flush, that was it. And it's like, oh, wow.
Yeah, we've had a couple of, so no hot flushes.
Yeah,
So
4 hours
anxious.
is not enough sleep.
Oh yeah, that's lack of sleep to me is torture.
It is literally torture.
Yeah, you can't, well, I can't function on no sleep. It's and the thing is, when you're not sleeping, it's one of these cyclical things that you can start to spiral, because like anxiety, you mentioned brain fog, loss of confidence. I mean, women are starting to kind of turn up at work and go, I can't get my words out properly anymore. I can't do my job, and they lose their confidence. And if they're not sleeping enough, you're kind of, starting off on the back foot and going, I'm too tired, which makes the brain fog worse, which makes the anxiety and the loss of confidence worse. And it just becomes this cycle.
And then a lot of times they actually then get out of the workforce,
Yeah.
which then leaves us on the back foot in terms of superannuation and income and
Yeah.
all of those other things, all from sleep.
Yeah.
Like it's,
Yeah. Oh
and
no.
if we, and that brain fog piece, if we're starting to think, I mean, we all, I think throughout our whole lives, we go through phases where we have certain aspects of brain fog when you're tired, when you are stressed, when you have babies, like all of those kind of things. But we start to go, oh my, at this age, I think, I know I have, oh my God, am I getting dementia? Like it's this terrible thing. And I remember reading Dr. Mascano's book about the menopause brain. And she put it was the simplest way she put it. I was like, oh my God, that's so like bingo. She said, brain fog is forgetting where you put your keys. Dementia is not remembering what keys are or what they're for. And I was like,
Right. Oh,
oh,
that's a bit better. Yeah, that's
it was like, oh yeah, because having known people with dementia, I could understand that. But when you're starting to go, what's wrong with my brain? We're chicks. Of course we're going to over dramatize and go, but I
yeah.
was like, oh, okay, no. So as long as I know what they're for and I just can't remember where they are, I'm all good. Why did I walk into the kitchen? How many? Okay,
Oh,
hands up. Who's walked into a room and gone,
yeah, totally.
well, what was I doing in here?
Yeah.
Oh,
I'm
well.
constantly interrupting people going, I totally change the subject, but I have to say this while it's in my brain.
Yeah.
It's got to come out now because otherwise it's gone again. But yeah, all the times is very, yeah.
And yes, does it get better? Jury's out on that. We can do lots of things, which we're going to talk about in order to help your brain health. Obviously, everyone's different. We're not doctors. We're not going to give you any advice
Yeah.
that kind of way at all. But HRT definitely helps with memory, brain fog, all that kind of thing. Some people are on HRT. See, I can't even say it properly.
It's okay.
HRT
We're all the same.
forever, because they've now proven that that's okay to do for the majority of people. There are obviously some people that can't. But looking after ourselves in so many other ways is the best thing we can do. Eating properly, sleeping, not doing things that are going to stress us out. Exercise, as you know, like all of those things are going to help our brain. But does it get better? Get back to me when I'm 70 and I'll let you know.
I think a lot of people report feeling better. I would say the majority, once you're sort of through that menopausal roller coaster, your symptoms, your hormones have leveled out again. Women are generally feeling better, but there's always going to be the exception to the rule. But you're right, HRT is amazing. I started getting a bit of anxiety late last year, and it took me a while to even realize that that's what it was because it's never been an issue for me. But the HRT really helped, but also with the dryness, so vaginal dryness and all that kind of stuff.
I
HRT.
scratched myself wiping one day.
Oh,
and I was like, what?
Yeah.
So yeah, the vaginal estrogen has helped so much with that. It's like,
Yeah,
oh, that's what it used to feel like.
There's so many different options now as well with HRT. So again, like Sam said, we're not giving medical advice, but I think having the knowledge to even go and ask the right questions for yourself is really important. It sort of gives me hope. Oh, that's good.
We have to be advocates for ourselves and all of this stuff.
And I had that conversation with my daughter today, and she's 20, but just sort of keep advocating for yourself until you get the answer that you need. You are the expert in you. Yeah, Angie, same thing. Anxiety. I'm not an anxious person. HRT helped. Yeah, and I mean, anxiety and that anger and the whole mood thing is huge. And you don't necessarily think it's menopause. You think just everyone's annoying you.
Yeah, and I think especially as women, I don't think we're taught to be okay with feeling angry. It's not a typically feminine or female experience. So we get taught to suppress it and be the good girl. And, so when it's that very, because I don't know about you, but I know when I'm having that irrational anger, like it's physical. Like it's not just I'm a bit grumpy pants. It's like,
yeah.
and we don't know how to let it out.
Yeah, and that's the thing, and then it comes exploding out.
Mm.
Yeah, yeah. Question: HRT has side effects. I haven't had any. I'm not sure if you're referring there to the breast cancer link, which has been sort of, that was a misrepresentation of some data, and that's been removed. That it's the HRT link to breast cancer is no longer an issue. I'm not sure
It's
what
yeah,
other
it's definitely
side
different for
effects.
everybody.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, and there are certain people who've had certain types of breast cancer that can't take HRT, but again, it would be worth speaking to a doctor who specializes in women's health. I'm not sure what other side effects you might be referring to. I'm not really aware of many side effects of HRT.
No, I'm not only
No,
positive ones that I've
only positive
only
ones.
positive ones.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
apart from the cost, like I know
Trying to get it on the
that's not a
PBS.
side effect, but it's definitely a an impact to many women who go like that's I can't do that.
They're trying to get it onto the PBS, and there's a menopause Senate inquiry going on at the moment.
Mm.
I know a lot of doctors have called for it to be put on the PBS.
I know in the UK now it's just changed. I think it's like £50 for the year or something for your
Okay.
HRT.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, they're a bit ahead
and
of
you know
us.
what? If it was a guy's problem, that'd all be solved.
Yeah, I know
It
it's
is
shocking. It's
shocking that
not
it's
on the
stood on the
PBS.
PBS.
Yeah, yeah. We'll keep advocating. We'll keep getting on there. Yeah.
And the funny thing, Angie, with what you say there is 50% of the world may need it, but it actually impacts 100% of the world. Like for every man in the world, they're going to have a mother or a sister, or a sister or a workmate there's going to be women in their lives that this impacts. So it's like GST on tampons. What the hell? Although they did fix that. I'll get off
Yeah,
my soapbox now.
my husband
My
does
husband
that.
loves HRT.
Do you know, and it's true. I think I've got two boys, and they're quite my 16-year-old the other day says to me, somebody in his class, and they're in year 10. I don't know why they're talking about menopause, but this girl said she didn't understand it. Maybe her mum's going through it. And my 16-year-old said, "Yeah, go and talk to my mother." And I love the fact that that's just it's becoming a normal part of conversation for them. So I think that next generation are going to be doing well. So but yeah, it's
So how can exercise help us through all of this?
exercise can just help everything. No.
See, I know that now later in life, but I was saying to you earlier, like I grew up and exercise was what you did to lose weight, or because you were at school and you had to do something. It wasn't something you did for an enjoyment or it was good.
And that's the thing. And, I'm glad you touched on that, because so many women say, I hate exercise. And then if you start to scratch the surface, it might be that when they were growing up, they were the last one picked for the school team. When they used to do the two teams and go, like Mary and John, you're the team leaders, and they'd pick the best people first, and you always knew you were never going to be the first one picked, or you were be the last one. And stuff like that stays in your brain.
Ever.
And we get to this phase of life, and exercise is so important, and it's not about how we look, it's about how we feel. It's about our bone density, it's about our muscle mass,
Huge one.
it's about our brain health, about our gut health. Exercise affects our gut health, and 70% of our immunity comes from our gut. So the healthier our gut and that microbiome, all those bacteria that live in our gut, the healthier they are, the better our immune system is. But we also have that vagus nerve that travels between the gut and the brain. So again, the healthier the gut, the better the brain health. So it just, I have this friend who, she used to come to me years ago to my classes, and she could barely run around the field once. She was determined, and she started plodding around, and then had various health challenges with her and her husband and whatnot, and running became her source of kind of therapy. So she slowly started running more and more, and she's now started a running club. And then a friend said recently, she goes, "Oh, you must really love running." And she goes, "I hate it. I hate running, but I like the person I become when I run.
Mm.
And that's the thing. It's, maybe shifting that thought process around exercise to, I'm doing this for myself because I feel a better person. I'm a better mother or partner. And it's an act of self-care.
And sometimes it could just be the act of actually doing something for yourself for half an hour.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just like taking that time. Like that's my class. That's my, outlet.
Yeah. Yeah. And really, seeing it as that self-care thing rather than something torturous that you're doing to punish your body. You're doing it to help your body. So, yeah, but it's a non-negotiable really at any stage of life, but our bone density and our muscle mass drops off dramatically. Again, that the hormones dropping off, that has a big impact on that. Our risk of heart disease increases again because the estrogen drops off. So exercise can really help with all of those things. And then hopefully, if you're a little bit more tired, you might sleep better as well. And
Won't have that extra glass of wine to help you go to sleep. That actually makes you wake up.
oh, yeah, doesn't it just?
So,
Get that one. Yeah. And it probably, helps your skin as well. So
it does, absolutely. All that oxygenation. I can never say that word. Why did I even try? Helps your skin 100%. And as you were talking about with self-care, like I sell skincare.
yeah.
Skincare is not self-care. A lot of people have the idea that self-care is, oh, does that mean I have to spend an hour every week having a facial and a massage and doing it's like, no, self-care can be setting your alarm 10 minutes later. Self-care can be a walk. Self-care can be your phone not being on do not disturb all day. Self-care can be so many different things. It's two words, self and care. So it's what you
Yeah.
deem it to be, looking after yourself in the way that makes you feel better.
Yeah. Yeah. So in terms of skin care, as we hit this phase of life, what are we looking at? And like, let's be frank, is all about that midlife woman. What changes that we need to, what do we need? Why do we need different products?
Well, what we've said about estrogen, our skin, estrogen just does so much for it.
Mm.
Like it just once it goes, our collagen depletes, and our estrogen. So then our elasticity goes, we get a bit hairier, our rosacea may flare up, we get a lot more inflammatory as the estrogen drops. So a lot of people, when they've been used to their whole life going, adding chemical peels, and I'm not saying don't do any of these things, but what I profess to is, again, knowing yourself better. So the trend over the last few years has been lots of retinols and lots of peels and lots of, scour away at our skin to unveil that beauty underneath. But what you're doing is you're just stripping your skin of so much goodness. And don't even get me started on the next generation of Sephora kids that are all going to get to 35 and go, oh my God, what happened to my face? We need to be kinder to our skin. So it's a lot more nourishment, a lot like stronger moisturization, actually less steps. We don't need a 10-piece routine. I speak to many people and they're like, oh, I'm 30. What do I need to do for my skin? And I'm literally drink water, hydrate your skin, take your makeup off and wear sunscreen. Like bottom line, if that's all you do, that's going to be great. But at our age, it's about listening to it. And I know that I need, like I use the serum and a moisturizer because my skin is ridiculously dry. So for me to not feel like it's, crepe paper, I do that. For other people, just a moisturizer is going to be fine. Our scrub, for example, has tiny little a natural thing called a silicolate in it. So it's environmentally friendly, but it's a really gentle exfoliation rather than a scrub it up.
I remember like scrubbing really hard and
Yeah, it was like, it's gonna make my face clean. I look so much prettier. And we get, who thought at 50 we'd be getting pimples?
yeah.
The hormonal pimples are a thing that don't end. And, I'm the generation where my mother, we had a bottle of peroxide and we'd get a cotton bud and put a little bit of peroxide on our pimples, which again, just stripped our skin of stuff, which we don't need to do.
Yeah. I have to say, well, I think my daughter's pretty good at managing her skin most of the time, and I think they know a lot more.
They do know a lot more, but they are definitely using stuff that's a lot harsher than they
Yeah.
need to be at that age. And we have to be very careful here. A lot of the trends that, I'll just get on my soapbox for a second here. A lot of the trends that people follow online, like the TikTok skincare routines and the Korean this and the that and the this and the glass face and all these things, a lot of them they aren't made for the Australian environment. Like our biggest enemy in Australia and New Zealand is the sun. So a lot of the products that may be really great if you live in England and you're not actually getting that much sunlight, a retinol is fine to use for most people there. Use a retinol in Australia, and if you don't have a really high sun factor on, you're really running a risk of damaging your skin. But we don't know that. We just go, oh, it's trendy, I'll use it.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think we forget as well that our skin is our biggest organ.
Huge.
It's this massive protective layer that covers our whole body.
And we tend to look after our face and not other places. So my family's been making skincare stuff for a long time. So like our hands are one of the biggest givers awayers, that's a term, of our age. So I'm like hand cream all the time. Another one is the back of our neck. Like you and I both have short hair, but a lot of women, when they're younger, they have long hair. Then they get older, they cut their hair and they're like, oh my God, I've never put moisturizer on my neck and it's all crinkly around the back. Like it doesn't take anything to cleanse your face, moisturize your face, do the back of your neck. And there's a saying, it's like nips up, and take it to the tits. So whatever you're doing here, like your decolletage and the back of your neck, it's all, do it all. I've got a lot of sun damage here when I wasn't paying enough attention to that area. And it was literally, I'd put sunscreen on my sun stuff on my face, but then I'd like walk the dog or have lunch with friends, not thinking I needed sun cream here.
Yeah.
So too late, but I religiously do it now.
Oh, I remember putting factor 2. That was a lot. My parents would hassle me and I go, fine, I'll put on factor 2.
Lying on the beach I lived on a boat. I was lying on the boat covered in baby oil.
Yeah. Isn't it amazing what our bodies can recover from, though? I know.
Imagine we'd probably get done for child abuse if we let our child lie out in the sun covered in baby oil now. Actually, a funny side story. My sister was going through phase when she was younger, back in New Zealand. When you've seen it on TV, the tin foil kind of things, lying.
Oh, yeah.
To get the sun up. And she was doing that and then went inside and she got very panicky. I don't know, she might have been 12 or something. And was like, oh no, and she thought she was going to be in big trouble and like rang her best friend and said, Mum's going to kill me, but before she kills me, I'm probably going to die because I've got cancer. And I'm like, she'd eaten chocolate and a bit had melted on her stomach and she thought she thought she's lying there trying to sun herself.
So the message
Why do you do it now?
Eat all the chocolate.
Eat all the chocolate. Sunbeds. Oh my God, we all had sunbed. People still have backyard sun tanning things these days. Anyway, crazy.
Yeah, God, I remember those. Oh. So does anyone have any particular questions about, intermittent fasting?
For some people, it absolutely is a great thing. I know many, many people that swear by intermittent fasting in this age group. It doesn't work for me. I had a gastric sleeve 12 years ago, so I can't actually eat a lot. So intermittent fasting for me, I'm like passing out. Nothing works. But many women I know swear by it. Intermittent fasting and high protein.
Yeah, so I think the high protein, high fiber. Yeah, so I'm not a dietitian, but I know, well, intermittent fasting, just to sort of add to that as well, it's what works for you. And I think that's the thing. We need to learn to really engage and listen to our bodies a lot. And if it works for you and if you feel good on it, then that's great. The dietary recommendation, again, as a general recommendation, is the Mediterranean diet, because it is so rich in a
Everything.
variety of fruits and vegetables and plant foods. I love that saying, which is eat real food, not too much, mostly plants. So it's Michael Pollan is that. So eat real food, not too much, mostly plants. And
The
that's
rainbow.
yeah, yeah. I mean, the guidelines these days are to aim for 30 different plant foods a week. So, that's 4 or 5 a day. And that includes nuts, seeds, herbs, legumes, veggies, fruits, all those different things.
And yeah, the fiber. Like, I didn't realize avocados had so much fiber.
Yeah.
Like, it's when you learn more about what is in things, it's like, oh, like
Yeah.
my idea of fiber again when I was younger was all bran.
Yeah. And the thing is, that kind of, again, it ties into our gut health. And I don't really want to sort of go too much into the nutrition, but, we're talking about our bodies. And a lot of women have issues with bloating, or constipation is a huge one. And if you're constipated, if you're not getting rid of those, the waste products from your body, any of the excess hormones and stuff that you're trying to get rid of start to circulate again. So constipation is a real thing, and if that's something that you're experiencing, it's best treated, and that's where increasing fiber is so important. So yeah, fiber and lots of protein. And the thing with the protein is that our bodies don't absorb everything that we eat, so we can get away with eating more protein, and it keeps us fuller for longer, which means it's cutting back on our cravings. So if we can have a decent amount, it's about 80 grams of protein a day. And the thing is, with when I say 80 grams of protein,
Yeah, it's not a steak
it's
that's
not an
80 grams.
80-gram steak. And I don't know the numbers, so but trying to get a bit of protein into every meal. And if you're having a snack sort of mid-afternoon or something, trying to make that quite nutritiously complete, so that you can kind of keep going. So rather than having those sugar highs and lows, the protein and the fiber are really important there.
Boiled eggs are like one of my best friends.
Yeah. And that's the thing. Yeah, it's not just
I'll boil a handful of them, have them in the fridge, and it's just like bung.
I've rediscovered cottage cheese. That used to be a real diet food when I was growing up. And probably because it's really high in protein.
It's great. And quark, the other version was really good as well.
Yeah.
God, I haven't had cottage cheese for years.
I know, I recently rediscovered that. I was like, oh, I love this.
That's really, yeah.
It's quite nice.
And just, so on the intermittent fasting thing, I had this perception that it really had to be, you had your last meal at, 8 o'clock or whatever it was at night, and then you slept all night, and then you had a black coffee in the morning and water or a black tea, and then you made it through to lunchtime, and you're like a Energizer bunny, and then you ate. And I'm a morning bird, so when I was trying it, I was trying to do that, and I'm awake at 5 o'clock, so I was cactus. I was like, I could not function. And then someone said to me, you can pick the times that you do the intermittent fasting. I was like, huh? And then it did work better for me, but it's still not ideal for me. But so I was like, have my breakfast at 5 o'clock, and then I would have my meal and later meal in the afternoon. And then that was when I started. Yeah. Again, I was reading these things and seeing what was on trend. And I was like, okay, so I can't eat till lunchtime. And I was dying because I'd been up for hours and hours.
And then, again, it's listen to your body, isn't it? It's if you can't function, if you can't do your work and look after your family or whatever else you need to do, then, is that really the right thing? But there's so many different types of fasting as well.
Yeah.
So there's that one, there's the 5 and 2, where you have 2 days a week where you don't eat, sort of have 600 calories or something. So it's a very light day. And then, the overnights, and, I generally I don't do the intermittent fasting anymore. I used to do the 5 and 2. But I try and stop eating after my evening meal, which is often quite early.
Yeah.
And then I don't eat again. And I'm up at sort of 5:30 as well. And I eat when I come home from work at around 7:30. So I'm aiming for that sort of 12-hour window, which is really good because it does give your body a chance to recover and to digest the food. And I mean, even if you're not going to do the longer fasts, it's still recommended to have 3 hours between any kind of food.
Mm.
So that includes milky drinks. So if you're having breakfast at 7, trying not to have anything milky or anything to eat until at least sort of 10 o'clock, just to give your body a chance to actually digest what you're giving it.
I think one of the messages I know we talked about wanting to get across in this chit chat tonight is that listening to our bodies and being kind to our bodies. Like it's just like the 153,000 menopause symptoms that there are, we're all different. Like genetically, we're completely made up differently. So we are going to have different symptoms, different things that work for us. Some people I know get to this stage and they can't wear certain fabrics anymore. Like we're so different, but we can't. So we have to learn. The greatest gift we can give ourselves at this age is to listen to ourselves and pay attention and notice what's going on, and then be kind to ourselves instead of going, oh my God, you're hopeless. You can't do anything fasting, you loser. Like doesn't work for me. Like that kindness. When did we get taught not to be kind to ourselves as women?
Yeah, I know. And we say things to ourselves that we would never say to
Oh,
anyone
we're
else.
terrible.
Yeah.
And that impacts our confidence.
Yeah. Well,
So
that's like going back to the
great.
exercise thing is, oh, I'm no good at exercise. And I sort of say to people, you think about the kids at school who were really good at exercise, sport, sorry, at sport. And how many of them have gone off to be Olympic athletes or something? Very, very, very few. I don't know any. So most of us are fairly average. And, just, as you say,
And it's not too late to try something else. One of my very best friends picked up pole dancing at 45 and won awards. I mean, I was at a lunch today, met this incredible woman called Stephanie, who's 55, I believe. And she contracted malaria a couple of years ago and has an amputee from about halfway down both calves, had her removed from there. And she was nearly at the Paralympics this year. Unfortunately, it was a wild card entry because she was doing fencing. She's like 37th in the world in paraplegic fencing, and she took it up after she lost her legs at 53. She'd never picked up a sword beforehand. And she loves it. Like it's not too late to go, I'm going to pick up, what's the latest trend? Pickleball.
I love pickleball. Don't get me started.
You'll have to take me one day. I've read about it and hear about it. I'm like, you've got a pickle and a ball. Isn't that a sandwich?
Yeah, that's good fun. And one of the things I like about it, and maybe it's the times when I'm playing, I feel like everyone's kind of my age, maybe a little bit older. So I haven't walked into somewhere where I've kind of gone, oh my goodness, they're all, sort of babies.
Yeah.
So I just feel in my kind of environment, it's really nice actually. And yeah, that was a big part of it actually when I started playing that.
And how do you think how did your confidence go through perimenopause? Like, did you keep it? Did you feel better? Did you get to that less F's to give phase or?
Yeah, definitely. You know what? I grew up, and I've only sort of really reflected on this in hindsight. With my dad used to say to me, "There's no such thing as can't. You can do anything." And Mary's going to laugh at this because I say that all the time in class. So I think I've kind of, and that doesn't mean I'm super confident because I'm not at all, and particularly sort of in social situations. If I've got a hat to wear, if I've got a reason to sort of, this I'll often grab a platter and walk around because then I've got a reason to do things. But I do think I'm a lot more confident, and that whole, who cares what people think? And, I came home with this platinum blonde hair and my kids were like, oh my God, what have you done? I'm like, isn't it fun? And they're like, what?
You're only ever one haircut away from a good one, my mother said.
Yeah, it's
like, go for it.
I do feel like I'm a lot more confident. I love the work that I'm doing. I've been doing the exercise thing for about 18, 19 years, but now with all the menopause work and thank you. Just, being able to help people and seeing that change in people when they go, oh, wow, I didn't realize this, or thanks so much for that. And it's just information. It's just conversations and information. And so I'm loving this time of life.
Well, we've got the reality is we've got, you know, more of our life post perimenopause, it's a sentence, isn't it, than we have before that.
Yeah.
You know, our life expectancy is just going to get longer and longer and longer. So we go through this, you know, whether it's I need a second chapter or what's my next career going to be or something like, we've got all this time, like this, the possibilities are endless and exciting, and finding more of who you are and accepting more of who you are and liking who you are is the best kind of way to jump off into that next kind of phase of life. You know, I plan on living to 100, so I got a while to go.
And that's the thing, you know, I think that coming back to that whole mindset and how we think about things, like you say, we've just got to start to like ourselves. And so many women are at this age starting to come not out of parenting, because I think parenting goes on forever, but it's that less intense phase. So we are starting to have a little bit more time and discover ourselves and what we like doing. And, you know, I took up pickleball, but, you know, I sort of had that moment of, oh, I need a hobby, because what do I do? What do I like, you know?
And being a parent in that earlier phase of your child's life is such an identity that we wear. I was like, oh, okay, now what?
Yeah.
And for many people, it's, you know, in this kind of sandwich generation phase, they're then looking after parents and things like that. But yeah, finding something that lights your fire that's the best thing you can do for your skin. Let me tell you.
Yeah, it's true, isn't it? Yeah.
Stress less, smile more.
Yes, stress, isn't that that's a huge one, isn't it? It affects so many different things.
It impacts everything.
And I didn't realize the real science behind it until I sort of went down this whole menopause rabbit hole. But it's all good. See you, Angie. Thanks for joining in.
And we'll send you some links to some bits and bobs.
Yeah, we will. But yeah, stress is all about those hormones. You know, it's too much cortisol, too much adrenaline. And if we're not burning it off by, you know, running away or fighting things, then it's just, it chews on everything else. It starts to scavenge on everything else in the body. And we crave sugar because we need to feed that cortisol. And, you know, that causes all sorts of issues. So managing our stress is really important. And knowing,
and we manage it differently as we get older.
Yeah, but also knowing what stresses you and where you feel it. You know, I think that's really important, that if you know that something's going to stress you out, and then, you know, working out whether, is it worth stressing about? Is it something you can change? In which case, try and change it. And if it's something that you can't change, find a way to live with it or around it. You know, I think, you know, it's like road rage. Yelling at somebody through the windscreen, they're going to drive off oblivious, and you're going to sit there with that rage. So trying to sort of let it go.
Let it go. Let it go. Sorry. Couldn't help myself.
Yeah, look, I think one of the sort of the 4 tips that I like to say to people is to listen to your body, like we've talked about. You know, listen to your mind, listen to your body, and do what's right for you. And then find some renewable energy sources for yourself. You know, we plug our phones in, or our watches, or our headphones, all those things. When the battery runs low, we plug them in. Well, do that for yourself. Find some things that refuel you, that fill your cup, and have a list of things that take a couple of seconds, well, like, you know, half a minute, a minute, maybe some deep breaths, or getting up and down from your chair a couple of times, to longer things that might take half a day or a weekend. So you've got a whole list of things that fill your cup. Again, going back to that self-care, look after yourself. Respecting your limits is another one. So no is a complete sentence.
It is.
You can find a nicer way of sort of saying it if just a flat out no doesn't sit quite right with you. But
we don't need to explain our everything to everybody.
Yeah.
But we're conditioned to.
Yeah, and I think often it's, I mean, obviously at work there are things that we just have to do. No's not always going to go down that well. But, you know, when it's the extra stuff, if somebody asks you to do something, again, listen to your gut reaction. If you kind of go, oh, okay, I'll do it, then chances are you're going to resent doing it. So sometimes just going, hey, you know what, Samantha, thank you so much for asking me. Let me go and check my diary and I'll get back to you. And then it gives you that moment to sort of stop and think, do I really want to do this? And you can come back with a way of sort of saying, not this time. I think that's an important one. And then the last one is connection and having supportive
Oh,
relationships, having friends and communities in different areas in different ways. I think is sort of that's good for the mind, the body, and then that all comes out in your skin as well. I think
comes out in everything. I think if I could leave with a couple of thoughts that I think have been really important to me is that connection piece. Like I'm an avid reader and learner. I want to know everything. Like there's so much in life to understand. So my car was always like my university. And this year in particular, I felt more disconnected this year than I did during COVID. Because at least during COVID, we were doing this kind of thing all the time. Like I was having cocktails every second afternoon with friends on Zoom. So I'm no longer listening to podcasts in my car. I get in my car and I phone someone.
Yeah. Okay.
And I just like, this morning it'll be that, like, and it might be a couple of people, and I might then listen to some music or whatever, but I'm not trying to fill my brain with more stuff. I'm trying to, connect more with people, and I make a deliberate exercise every weekend of catching up with someone physically. Might be coffee, might be a walk, might be something, but just again, like my daughter's nearly 19 and at uni, I'm a single mum. So I'm now finding, oh God, what is all this loneliness I have in my house? So getting out and meeting people to do things is great. And on confidence, I think the biggest tip I can give everybody, which worked wonders for me and has worked wonders for my clients over the years, taking the time to every single day, like every single day I'm looking at all of you, look in the mirror and find something about yourself physically. Because I'm not necessarily talking confidence in a business sense or work sense or things like that, but because we can all get in our head about that. I'm good at that, etc. And confidence is a muscle, just practice at it. But at this phase, our bodies are changing, and we're like, oh, it's a bit saggier, and I'm a bit hairier there, and a bit whatever. But being able to look in the mirror and find something that you can genuinely, truly appreciate about yourself, and it's not, standing there naked and going, oh, I am hot. Like most of us can't do that. I've got days when I can, let me tell you, but it's not every day. But I can look in the mirror every day and go, I love my eyes. They help me converse with people. They're the window of my soul. They can communicate my needs. Or, love my lips. Oh my God, that food I ate last night, my lips just gave me that taste. It was amazing. It's finding something every day. I've got clients that love their hand, like just something. And that builds onto going, oh, actually, yeah, I do love it all.
Yeah.
But not trying to jump there. It's like starting an exercise routine and going from doing nothing to trying to do I was going to say the Sydney to Hobart, the Sydney to surf. Brave fog, run the Sydney to Hobart. But you can't do that straight away. You can't take these giant leaps, baby steps.
Yeah, no, it's so true, isn't it? Yes.
Yeah.
Right. Should we wrap it up?
We should, but I think anyone that registered will send you, we've both got a couple of great downloads that can help through this phase that we're apparently going to be in for a long time, and a good time, and send you all those details.
Yeah. So awesome. Thank you.
And hit us up online on social with any questions.
Yeah, please feel free.
And this has been fun. We should do another topic. We should do something else.
Yes. Yeah. I love this. Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us, ladies. Thank you, Samantha.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Have a fabulous evening, the rest of your evening.
What?
Take care, everyone.